Welcome back to Monitors Unboxed. Today we're taking a look at another esports gaming monitor from BenQ, this one designed more around 240Hz gaming, the Zowie XL2546X. If you don't quite have the ludicrous $1,000 US to grab BenQ's 540Hz flagship, but are still interested in their DyAc 2 backlight strobing technology, then perhaps this monitor will be better suited to you. Like BenQ's other competitive gaming-focused products, the XL2546X uses a 24-inch 1080p TN LCD panel. This brings with it many weaknesses, but the idea is that the motion clarity is so good that you'll be willing to accept the trade-off. I don't imagine this monitor will have broad appeal given this trade-off, however, there is definitely a group of gamers who love to play multiplayer titles with backlight strobing enabled, and this monitor is designed specifically for that. The design used here is very similar to the XL2586X we looked at a few weeks ago. It's very simple and gives off the vibes that the product is more of a functional tool than a cool gaming monitor with a slick aesthetic. The bezel size, for example, is larger than what you'd typically see among other modern gaming monitors, but this appears to be a purposeful choice to separate your surrounds from the screen, helping you focus on gaming. That's also why BenQ provides shades you can attach to either side of the screen to prevent light hitting the display and block out even more of your field of view. The stand is adjustable with height, tilt and swivel support, plus at the top of the stand pillar there's a cutout that helps you carry the monitor around, something you don't often see but I guess is put there for tournaments. The base of the stand is small, and again that's done with a purpose. Smaller bases allow for a much greater range of mouse and keyboard placements, and we know that some pro-level players love to have their keyboard on an extreme angle, which just doesn't work with some other designs. The functional design extends to the port placement, which are found directly on the back of the monitor for easy access. No USB hub here, but we do get 3 HDMI 2.0 ports and 1 DisplayPort 1.2, all of which allow for the full 1080p 240Hz experience. The rest of the build quality is standard grey plastic. I don't think it looks bad or anything. There's a few red highlights like the Zowie logo on the rear and a ring around the stand. It's just not an overly premium design, and I don't expect the target audience for this product to care. The OSD here is controlled through a directional toggle on the rear of the display, and it includes BenQ's typical feature set. While there are functions like a black stabilizer, BenQ deliberately omits cheat features like crosshairs, so most of what you'll find are color and performance adjustment options. HDR functionality is not included at all, though there's no hardware to support it anyway. Alright, let's discuss response time performance. The XL2546X comes with 3 overdrive modes, plus full user customizability through a slider, so you can really dial in the best performance. The first setting is overdrive off, though I wouldn't spend too much time on it because it really isn't fast enough for 240Hz gaming as seen with the refresh compliance numbers. High is a step better than off, providing an average response time of 5.8 milliseconds and little to no overshoot, but again this isn't quite where things need to be for 240Hz gaming. Stepping up to premium is sufficient, offering a 4.5 millisecond average response and very good results for overshoot and cumulative deviation, but with the user adjustable slider I think I can do a little better. Ultimately, I found a setting of 17 was optimal for 240Hz gaming, and this increased performance slightly compared to the built-in premium mode. I greatly appreciate the ability to tune the overdrive yourself, as you could find you prefer a different setting, especially in colder or warmer climates as temperature does affect response time performance. However, a setting of 17 really is best suited to gaming at the higher end of the refresh rate range. As we lower the refresh rate, at around 144Hz and 120Hz, there's a bit too much overshoot here for a pleasant experience, and performance falls away further at lower refresh rates. If you're planning to utilize more of the refresh rate range and want to optimize more around 120Hz, then a user overdrive setting of 13 is appropriate. This reduces performance at 240Hz to between the high and premium settings, but significantly improves overshoot in the mid and lower parts of the refresh range, making the display much more usable around 120 to 60Hz. Like with its 540Hz brother, there is a bit of an unusual fall-time response that shows up at lower refresh rates, but this has little impact on overall motion clarity. At 240Hz using its best overdrive settings, the BenQ XL2546X is a fast monitor, but not quite as fast as other products from BenQ. This leads to a few mixed feelings. The XL2566K at 360Hz is faster with more overshoot, and products such as the PG248QP from ASUS are much faster but also much more expensive. The TN-based XL2546X is faster than some 1080p 240Hz IPS monitors I've looked at, such as the Armada 25 and InZone M3, but the gap here isn't as large as I'd like considering the weaknesses to TN technology. Average performance again is okay, but not exactly a standout, and it does appear the gap between TN and other types of LCD have shrunk over the years in this sort of refresh range. The panel here doesn't appear to have quite the same level of premium tuning that I've seen from some other TNs, and there's no single overdrive mode experience, which does impact average performance. Ideally, a product like this would feature variable overdrive. We can see how things fare in general using the cumulative deviation metric. While the XL2586X and XL2566K end up with similar overall results, indicating a similar level of motion performance on average, the XL2546X doesn't appear as well tuned. The higher refresh rate models are in the range of 20 to 25% better, and that doesn't exactly give a large gap to the IPS products I was talking about earlier, like the Armada 25. Even comparing both at the highest refresh rate, the XL2546X is only slightly ahead. This monitor isn't really optimized for lower refresh rate gaming, but I'll show the results from 120 and 60Hz here anyway. If you are planning on getting this product, I'd strongly recommend doing so with the goal of playing as close to 240Hz as possible. While response time performance was a bit underwhelming compared to previous BenQ products and other 1080p 240Hz monitors I've tested, the XL2546X has a trick up its sleeve in the form of DyAc 2 backlight strobing. Some of the 1080p 240Hz IPS LCDs I've tested don't even have backlight strobing at all, or if they do, the quality is unimpressive. Meanwhile, with this Zowie monitor, strobing is basically the entire point. DyAc 2, also found in the 540Hz XL2586X, uses a multi-zone edge-lit backlight to independently control the backlight pulse at different parts of the screen. When the top part is being scanned out and refreshed, the backlight will strobe at the top. When the middle scans out, the middle strobes, and so on throughout the display. This increases the golden zone of best motion clarity from a small area around the center of the screen to almost the entire screen from top to bottom, a notable improvement compared to other backlight strobing implementations. The quality of DyAc 2 strobing on this monitor is very good, with some minor double image effects remaining when viewing at 240Hz using the DyAc Premium setting. Overall image clarity is significantly improved compared to not using DyAc 2, with a much clearer UFO image and readable text. The double image effects trail for a bit longer than you see using the XL2586X at 540Hz, and the higher refresh rate monitor also is a bit clearer, but the general image quality from both products is impressive, and it's good to see the lower refresh version isn't a significant downgrade. I also think the new 240Hz variant holds up well compared to the 360Hz XL2566K. In some areas, this new model actually has superior strobe quality, especially when factoring in the better clarity at the top and bottom of the panel. However, the Asus PG248QP still reigns supreme in terms of the overall best clarity, even if it's only a minor advantage. While motion clarity is excellent using DyAc 2, there are a number of downsides to using this technology. It's only available at fixed refresh rates, and you'll need to ensure the game you're playing is locked to a matching frame rate. You can use DyAc 2 at lower refreshes like 120Hz, but anything below 120Hz, the quality starts to fall apart, and brightness in this mode is very good, exceeding 300 nits, so that's not a problem, but this is designed for competitive gamers that are willing to configure their game in a very specific way to play nicely with strobing. Input latency on this monitor is relatively low with a processing delay of just 1.2 milliseconds. 240Hz LCDs are no longer the best of the best when it comes to overall latency, as they are beaten by even higher refresh rate products with lower refresh lag like 540Hz LCDs and 360Hz OLEDs. But generally, you're still getting a low lag experience. Total latency below 7 milliseconds is a great experience that feels responsive and smooth. Power consumption is very good with the XL2546X using just 18 watts to display a 200 nit image, which is similar efficiency to other highly efficient monitors of today. What's interesting is the 240Hz model uses significantly less power than the 540Hz model, basically 1/3 less power, and it comes in below the 360Hz variant as well. Usually I don't see the refresh rate influence power consumption to this degree, but with BenQ's TN monitors it does seem to make a large difference. The focus of this sort of monitor isn't really color performance, but let's work through this stuff quickly. Unlike with the 540Hz model, the 240Hz variant is not a wide color gamut display, only producing 82% of the DCI-P3 color space, but 98% of sRGB. This leads to a low Rec 2020 gamut coverage of 60% in the range of other sRGB-only monitors, but below the wide gamut gaming displays that form most of what is released these days. Like other Zowie monitors, the XL2546X is configured out of the box with color tuning specifically for esports games like Counter-Strike, so accuracy is not the primary goal. With that said, the tuning isn't as aggressive and inaccurate as what I saw with the 540Hz variant. It's still not that accurate, but the gamma is much closer to a reasonable level, and it's more the color temperature of 7600K that leads to a few inaccuracies in grayscale. As an sRGB only monitor, we don't see oversaturation out of the box, but Delta E accuracy is not especially amazing. The standard mode improves performance somewhat, and that's the mode I'd use if I want a more accurate experience from the factory. For example, if you wanted to do some web browsing or watch a few YouTube videos, but it still falls short of what I'd describe as a factory calibrated mode. Even when I messed around with the included color controls, I found it difficult to get to that sort of level. A full software calibration can help, and I used CalMan for that, but for many buyers of this product, I'm not sure it will be worth doing so. I imagine a lot of competitive gamers will actually be interested in making the product less accurate through shadow boosting modes and lowering the overall gamma, which is certainly possible here. Maximum brightness reaches 323 nits, and this is roughly the same whether you are or aren't using backlight strobing, one of the benefits to BenQ's implementation. This isn't especially bright compared to the best LCDs of today, but is sufficient for most use cases. I also recorded minimum brightness of 41 nits, which is similar to other LCDs. As for the contrast ratio, nothing to get excited about here, a result of just 1038:1. This is pretty similar to BenQ's last gen XL2566K, but well behind the XL2586X. You're not going to be getting an overly rich contrast experience from this type of monitor, and this is exacerbated by terrible viewing angles, which significantly affect contrast if you aren't viewing the monitor in the dead center. Viewing angles are a known weakness of TN LCDs, and yes, this monitor is no exception. Viewing it off angles leads to huge gamma shift, a washed out image, and impacted color quality. This is the main reason why most LCDs have moved away from TN technology, because IPS in particular is significantly better and more usable. With that said, this BenQ isn't an outlier as far as TN LCDs go. All of them have terrible viewing angles. Uniformity with my unit was only average. Final section of this review is the Hub Essentials checklist. BenQ do a generally great job of advertising this monitor, especially as they don't advertise HDR support, which works in their favor as this display does not have the right hardware for it. I also didn't find any response time claims, which is probably for the best. Unusually, the product page also lists both DisplayPort 1.4 and DisplayPort 1.2 in different sections, but DP 1.2 is correct given the bandwidth used, which is sufficient for the maximum refresh rate. As for the feature support matrix, several elements relating to HDR were not assessed, as BenQ are not claiming HDR support here. Based on what you're seeing here, this is clearly a niche use case product, as many features that would be nice to have on a versatile monitor are not included. I'm thinking about decent color calibration, wide viewing angles, USB hub, those sorts of things. Thanks to DyAc too, though, it does perform well in the backlight strobing section and generally does okay in motion performance. There are a few borderline results though, such as for input latency. Adjustable strobe timing doesn't seem necessary on this monitor either, given how DyAc 2 works. Also, while 60Hz strobing is supported, it looks awful and I wouldn't recommend using it. Overall, the Zowie XL2546X is another gaming monitor from BenQ that is designed largely around the needs of a specific type of competitive gamer, one that needs the best motion clarity. It's a more affordable option than their 540Hz variant, though still not especially affordable, but realistically, with the flaws that come with the TN LCD panel, I can't see this display having broad appeal, and it's difficult to recommend it. When I reviewed the XL2586X, I called the monitor a tool rather than a consumer product, something designed for serious competitive esports gamers and professionals, and I think that applies to the XL2546X as well. This monitor has a highly targeted feature set, and if you're not the sort of gamer that wants to maximize competitive advantages and take every little step to win, this just isn't the product for you. But if doing everything to win sounds appealing and you're focused purely on motion clarity, the DyAc 2 implementation here is very good. It provides much better clarity than you'd typically get at 240Hz, and BenQ's improvements with this generation allow that clarity to extend to the top and bottom of the display, not just the middle. It's not quite as good as the very best strobed LCDs I've seen, but it's very competitive and it succeeds in its main goal. The trade-off to achieving this level of clarity is, well, pretty much everything else. Image quality in general is poor due to the TN-LCD panel's terrible viewing angles, low contrast ratio, low resolution, and small size, though admittedly some esports gamers actually prefer this size. This is also an sRGB only monitor, and its calibration is nothing special, not that it was designed to be. There's also no HDR functionality at all, as the panel isn't capable of it. Even using the strobing functionality requires a specific setup and fixed refresh rates, and the response time tuning when not using strobing was a bit disappointing given what I've seen from other TN monitors. I also think the price tag in general is too high. BenQ are asking for $500 US for this 1080p 240Hz monitor, which is just $100 less than the 360Hz XL2546X and $100 more than its direct predecessor, the XL2546K. You're also paying about double the price of a standard 1080p 240Hz monitor to get the DyAc 2 functionality. None of these comparisons make the XL2546X look like a good deal at all. There is simply no reason why the XL2546X should cost more than the XL2546K. It should be replacing the older model at the same price at the absolute worst, especially given the old model was released more than 3 years ago. To be honest, even $400 feels a little pricey given the advancements in monitor tech over the last few years, but that would have been a much better starting point for sure. So for most people, I find it difficult to recommend the XL2546X, and for the targeted crowd of esports gamers, I think it's just a bit too expensive to get a firm recommendation. If pricing ends up a bit more appropriate a few months from now, or it's a much better deal in your region, by all means, go ahead, as the DyAc 2 tech does work well. Until then though, it's a pass from me. So anyway, that's it for this review of the BenQ XL2546X. If you appreciate these reviews, even if the product itself maybe isn't worth recommending, then please do consider supporting the channel and the hard work that we do. We've got links to our Patreon and Flipplane accounts in the description below. Down there you'll find some cool benefits and perks, Discord community, great place to get monitor recommendations. We've got the ICC profiles that we generate for all of our reviews, monthly live streams, plenty of other good stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.